Memorial Day in Henderson, Nevada. The kind of sun-baked day where the heat seeps into your bones, and the smell of sunscreen and barbecue smoke hangs in the air like a heavy fog. Our family's backyard was packed with 40 relatives, cousins running around with red faces, uncles joking about politics, the faint smell of vodka mixing with the scent of grilled ribs. It should have been a celebration, a simple day to honor family and tradition. But for me, for Journey Morrison, it became the night everything shifted. I was in my wheelchair by the pool, my body a cage of pain and memory, my skin still sensitive from the CRPS that never left me, never relented. My legs, my nerves, every inch of me screamed with the smallest touch or breeze. And there he was, Legend Morrison, my brother, my once best friend, my once protector. Now a man drunk on vodka and years of buried resentment, striding across the sun-drenched yard like a predator approaching prey. He stopped right in front of me, smirked, and without warning, splashed the entire iced drink directly into my face. Vodka, ice, and soda drenched me in a cold shock that traveled down my neck, onto my chest. Every nerve flared, and my CRPS lit up like someone had poured gasoline onto a fire that had been smoldering inside me for years. My vision blurred. I could taste the tang of alcohol and citrus, feel the sting of ice shards melting against my skin, and yet, despite the pain, I forced my eyes open. "How long are you going to live a lie?" he shouted. His voice carried across the yard, loud, clear, perfectly timed for every phone to capture it. Every eye turned toward me. Laughter exploded behind him, cousins clapping, someone yelling, "Yeah, stand up already!" The words stung as much as the ice. Every ounce of muscle memory, every nerve in my body screamed at me to recoil, to hide, to sink under the weight of humiliation. And yet, I didn't. I stared straight into the nearest recording phone, refusing to let him see me broken. My body trembled, not from weakness, but from the pain and fury coursing through me. I said only one thing, my voice shaking but defiant. "You have no idea how long I've survived this." The yard went silent for a fraction of a second. Then the murmurs began, half confused, half intrigued. My words seemed to hang in the humid Nevada air, heavier than the summer heat. Some relatives shuffled uncomfortably, unsure whether to intervene, whether to scold my brother, whether to comfort me. But Legend didn't care. He reveled in the reaction, the power, the attention. For a moment, memories flashed in my mind. Memories of the brother I used to know, the one who taught me to parallel park on the first try, who showed up with in and out when I had the flu, who bragged to his co-workers that his little sister could out-squat every man in his department. The brother who always fixed things when they went wrong. That brother was gone. Replaced by this man, this stranger fueled by alcohol and bitterness, showing the world the side of him that only I thought I had known. I could feel the ice water soaking into my clothes, running down my neck, down my chest, hitting the seat of my wheelchair. The CRPS made every drop feel like molten steel on exposed nerves. Pain exploded through me in waves, sharp, relentless, demanding attention. Most people would have cried. Most people would have shrunk under that kind of public humiliation. But that's not me. I took a deep breath through the sting in my lungs, the fire in my body, the humiliation in my soul. I held my head high. The only thing that mattered in that moment wasn't Legend's anger, or the laughter of relatives, or the judgment in their eyes. It was survival, and not just survival in the physical sense, which was already a daily battle because of the CRPS. No, this was survival of my dignity, my spirit, my story. I remembered the countless days, months, years I had fought to get here. The accident that had shattered my body at the intersection of Tropicana and Caval. The endless nights of therapy, injections, and pain management. The private moments when I cried alone in the dark, when the CRPS made life feel like punishment, the relentless fight to prove that I was still me, even when my body betrayed me. And here was Legend, standing in front of me like some judge in a court of ridicule, trying to strip away all of that struggle in one splash. He had no idea how much I had endured, how much I had survived, how much I had already conquered before the sun had even reached its peak that day. I raised my head, my eyes meeting his, unwavering. I didn't flinch. I didn't apologize. I didn't beg. I stared straight into the camera phone, into the witness of everyone who had gathered here for a simple pool party, and I whispered, "No," I declared, my truth. "You have no idea how long I've survived this." The yard seemed to pause. Even Legend's smirk faltered for a fraction of a second, just long enough for me to feel the tiniest surge of triumph. My heart pounded, my body screamed, every nerve on fire. But my spirit? My spirit stood taller than it ever had, towering over his pettiness, over the mocking laughter, over the shame he tried to throw at me. It wasn't just a statement. It was a warning, a testament, a declaration that I wouldn't be broken again. Not by pain, not by betrayal, not by anyone. As I sat there, drenched in ice and alcohol, a thought crystallized. This was only the beginning. Because if I could survive this moment, if I could survive my brother trying to humiliate me in front of 40 people, then I could survive anything. And survive I would. 3 years ago, I wasn't the woman in the wheelchair, trembling from pain and humiliation. I wasn't the one surviving CRPS and public betrayal. No, 3 years ago, I was Journey Morrison, the unstoppable trainer everyone on the strip wanted. I had a reputation that preceded me. The girl who could make a cocktail waitress deadlift her own body weight. The woman who could push a showgirl to run 5 miles before sunrise without complaint. The trainer whose clients left sweaty, exhausted, and grateful for her relentless intensity. Life was hectic, fast, and intoxicating. My schedule was slammed. Private sessions that paid $5,000 a month per client. Slots booked weeks in advance. Casino VIPs, circuit performers, even headliners who insisted on cash-only sessions to keep their names off the books. I lived in a high-rise condo overlooking the Las Vegas Strip. My white Jeep Wrangler always with the top down, a constant reminder of freedom I had fought for. Every Sunday, no matter how busy my week had been, I met my brother, Legend Morrison, for brunch at Hash House. It was a ritual, a pause in the chaos. Legend worked brutal swing shifts managing table games at one of the big resorts, but he always made time for me. He wasn't just my brother, he was my anchor, my sounding board, the one who celebrated my victories and softened my failures. We had a bond that seemed unbreakable. Legend taught me how to parallel park in one try, showed up with In-N-Out burgers when I was sick, bragged to his coworkers that his little sister could out-squat every man in his department. He was fiercely proud of me, and I trusted him with everything. He was my person, and life, for a moment, felt perfect. But underneath that perfection, there were cracks. Little things I brushed off. A snide comment from a jealous coworker, a client who tried to flirt inappropriately. Late nights when the strip's lights dazzled me but left me exhausted. Yet nothing could overshadow the high of my work, the rush of achievement, the thrill of being at the top of my game. Then came that Tuesday. It was just another day. I had wrapped up my last client, a casino VIP who had requested a custom strength and endurance session. I was tired but satisfied. My muscles ached in the best way, proof of hard work paying off. I was looking forward to a quiet evening at my condo, maybe a hot shower, maybe a call with Legend to debrief the week. And then it happened. At the intersection of Tropicana and Caval, a box truck ran a red light. Everything happened in an instant. Metal tearing into metal, the sound of crushing steel, airbags punching me in the face, my own pelvis cracking like dry firewood. The world exploded in a deafening roar, and then, nothing. I woke up intubated, tubes everywhere, alarms beeping in the background, and doctors throwing words around that made no sense. Compound pelvic fracture, severe trauma to the L4 and L5 nerve roots, possible cauda equina involvement. My body was broken in ways I couldn't even comprehend. After 3 separate opinions, a mountain of MRIs, and weeks of waking up to sterile hospital lights, I finally had a diagnosis. Complex regional pain syndrome type 2. The kind of CRPS that turns normal touch into torture. The kind that never really goes away. I spent the next months in a haze of pain, disbelief, and therapy. My life before the accident, the whirlwind of strength training, client sessions, and brotherly brunches, felt like a different existence, a memory of someone else. And yet, through it all, my family rallied. Mom, Anita Morrison, basically moved into my condo, sleeping on the couch so she could help me with the basics, feeding myself, bathing, navigating the world when every step sent jolts of pain up my legs. Legend, despite his gruffness and stubborn streak, was there too, dropping off meals, checking on my therapy, sitting silently while I cried into my pillow. For a while, I thought everything would be okay. But even in those early days, I felt the isolation creeping in. CRPS doesn't just hurt the body, it gnaws at the mind. Friends stopped calling as often. Some clients canceled, unsure how to handle my condition. And though legend came by, there were cracks forming in our bond that I didn't notice yet. I clung to the routines I could maintain. Morning stretches, daily therapy exercises, even small workouts adapted for my new limitations. I refused to let my body define me entirely. I refused to let it strip away the identity I had built with sweat, effort, and relentless dedication. Yet there was always a shadow, this lurking fear that life as I knew it could never come back. That the strength, the independence, the freedom I had once enjoyed was gone forever. And as much as I tried to push it aside, deep down, I knew that survival now meant more than physical recovery. It meant navigating the complex, painful web of relationships that had shifted as much as my body had. And it was during those first months, while trying to adjust to a life I hadn't chosen, that I realized something crucial. Pain is not just physical. Pain is emotional, relational, and social. It seeps into every interaction, every expectation, every casual comment, and it tests you, not just your body, but your spirit. Looking back, that life before the accident seems almost unreal, like a dream I once had but can barely touch now. But it was real. I lived it. I thrived in it. And it gave me the foundation, the strength, and the knowledge that even after being shattered, I could survive. Because I did survive. And the story of that survival, the story of pain, betrayal, and defiance, was only beginning. It was a Tuesday afternoon, the kind of heat in Las Vegas that made the asphalt shimmer like a mirage. I had just finished my last client, a casino VIP who insisted on a private session because only Journey Morrison can push me this hard without complaining. My body was tired in that satisfying, earned ache sort of way. My mind was buzzing with schedules, new clients, and strategies for building my business. Everything seemed normal, ordinary, mundane, and then the world shifted. I was driving home, my Jeep top down, the wind whipping my hair, the city buzzing with the usual hum of traffic and neon. Tropicana Avenue stretched ahead, and I approached the intersection with Caval, my mind already thinking about the shower I'd take, the sandwich I'd make, the call I'd place to Legend to recap brunch plans. And then, a truck, a box truck. Out of nowhere, it ran the red light. Time slowed. The moment I realized I couldn't stop, the screech of brakes was deafening. Tires screamed against asphalt. The smell of burning rubber filled the air in a flash. Metal collided with metal, airbags erupted with violent force. My face slammed into them, the sting of powder and impact leaving me disoriented. And then, the most unbearable sound, my pelvis cracking, like dry firewood breaking under weight. Pain exploded in ways I never imagined. A white-hot flash that seemed to consume everything, my arms, my legs, my core, my very sense of self. The Jeep twisted, crumpled, and the world tilted sideways. Glass shattered, metal buckled, the sound of crushing steel echoing like a twisted symphony of chaos. The last thing I remember before the void, my own scream, muffled by airbags and panic, fading into black. I woke to a world of tubes, alarms, and blinding white lights. Intubated, monitors beeping, machines humming, nurses and doctors moving in a frantic, choreographed panic around me. My body felt alien, foreign and untrustworthy. Words floated in the air like shards of glass. Compound pelvic fracture, severe trauma to L4 and L5 nerve roots, possible cauda equina involvement. I didn't understand most of it. I just understood the panic, the terror, and the fear that this life I had built, this body I had trained, was gone. Days passed, or maybe it was hours. Time had no meaning in the hospital. I was poked, prodded, scanned, sliced into by images and reports. MRI after MRI, each thicker than the last, a fortress of paper documenting the destruction of my body. 3 separate opinions confirmed the diagnosis: complex regional pain syndrome type 2, CRPS. The words barely scraped the surface of the reality I now faced. The kind of pain that twists every nerve into fire. The kind that turns a soft breeze into torture, a brush of clothing into agony. The kind that doesn't leave, ever. For weeks, I floated between reality and delirium. Every sensation was magnified, every touch screamed, nurses' hands brushing my arm, the air from the ventilator hitting my face, even the thought of movement triggered volleys of pain I couldn't control. And yet, amidst the agony, there was a flicker of stubbornness, a reminder of who I was before this. Journey Morrison didn't give up. Journey Morrison survived. And even if her body was fractured, even if her nerves were on fire constantly, her spirit refused to break. Mom was there first. Anita Morrison, my mother, the woman whose energy and determination had shaped me, moved in, practically taking residence on the couch in my condo. She cooked, she cleaned, she slept only in short bursts to make sure I didn't fall out of bed, to make sure I had what I needed. She became my lifeline, my anchor, my constant in a world that had collapsed. Legend came too, at least at first. He showed up with food, with gestures that said, "I'm here." But I could sense the strain, the discomfort. He didn't know how to handle my pain. He didn't know how to navigate my dependency. I could see the shift beginning, subtle but undeniable, the tension building even in his attempts to help. Therapy became a battleground. Every exercise, every movement, was a confrontation with pain itself. My body screamed as I attempted to stretch, to bend, to strengthen. CRPS was relentless. It mocked me. It burned me alive with every touch, every motion, every breath. And yet, I persisted. There were moments, too many moments, when I thought about giving up, when tears slipped down my cheeks, and I whispered to myself, "Why me?" Nights were the worst. Alone in the sterile darkness, the pain became all-encompassing. The hum of the city below my condo felt distant, irrelevant. I was trapped in my own body, a prisoner of nerves and fire. But through the haze, I clung to memory. The life before. My high-rise condo, my Jeep, my clients, my brunches with legend. That life became my anchor. A reminder that I could survive, that I could reclaim something. Even in the darkest moments, a defiance grew inside me. A tiny, stubborn ember that refused to die. I would fight. I would endure. I would rebuild. Not the same, maybe not as fast, maybe not as easy, but I would survive. And survival became my new goal, my obsession, my identity. Because now I knew pain is inevitable, but giving up is a choice. I refused to choose it. Little did I know, this was only the beginning. The accident had fractured more than my body. It had set the stage for the tests of loyalty, family, and resilience that would come to define the next years of my life. The first 2 years after the accident were like living in a separate dimension, a world where every moment of normal life became a battle against pain, fatigue, and the endless scrutiny of loved ones who didn't fully understand what I was going through. CRPS isn't just a diagnosis. It's a relentless, invisible storm that takes your body hostage, burns your nerves alive, and doesn't stop for anything, not birthdays, not holidays, not the laughter of family in the next room. At first, my family rallied around me. Mom, Anita Morrison, was nothing short of a saint. She practically moved into my high-rise condo, sleeping on the couch, cooking, cleaning, managing appointments, and making sure I had everything I needed. She became my constant, the only one who could soothe the panic that flared whenever a wave of CRPS pain hit. Legend came too, but even he, with all his love and history with me, struggled. He wanted to help, but he didn't understand the complexity of my condition. He could bring food, drive me to appointments, and sit with me silently, but he couldn't take the pain away. And when he couldn't, frustration grew, both in him and in me. Days blurred together. Mornings began with stretching exercises designed to prevent my joints from freezing, followed by therapy sessions that were both physical and psychological torture. Every movement was measured, every touch magnified by the fire running through my nerves. Sometimes it felt like my body wasn't mine anymore. My legs were like uncooperative strangers, my arms like foreign objects, and the simple act of lifting a glass of water became a monumental feat. Sleep was a distant memory. Nights were the hardest. Alone in the dark, even with Mom in the next room, the pain was unbearable. Every nerve screamed. Every shift in position was agony. I would lie awake, wide-eyed, imagining the life I had lost, wondering if I would ever feel normal again. The CRPS didn't just hurt, it isolated. Friends stopped visiting, clients canceled. Even small interactions became fraught with stress because every touch, every accidental bump, could trigger a cascade of pain that left me bedridden for hours. Through it all, I clung to the routines I could control. Morning stretches, therapy, breathing exercises, and adapted workouts became lifelines. I couldn't do what I once did. I couldn't train clients in the intense, high-energy way I had before. But I could fight to maintain some semblance of strength and independence. It was all I had. And yet, despite my determination, the isolation crept in. People couldn't, or wouldn't, see the struggle. They saw me sitting in a wheelchair, maybe flinching at a touch, and assumed I was fragile or weak. They didn't understand that beneath that fragile exterior was still the same Journey Morrison who had pushed herself and others to the limit. I wanted to scream at them, "You have no idea what I survive every day." But most days, I didn't have the energy. Legend and I grew apart in subtle ways. At first, he tried to maintain the same relationship we had before. Sunday brunches became less frequent, his visits shorter, his words tinged with awkwardness. I could see it in his eyes. He didn't know how to handle a sister who was alive, conscious, and struggling in ways he couldn't fix. And I could feel the resentment building, small at first, then growing like a shadow. Not toward him exactly, but toward the life that had been ripped away from me, and toward everyone around me who seemed to move forward while I was trapped in this new, painful reality. I became adept at masking my pain, showing a smile when visitors came, keeping my voice steady when friends called, and hiding the tears when I was alone. People didn't need to see me break. They didn't need to see the constant burning, the spasms, the fatigue that made it impossible to even sit upright without assistance. I learned to survive silently, because survival required more than strength of body. It required cunning, patience, and mental fortitude. Therapy was grueling. Physical therapists pushed me to do things my body screamed against, trying to retrain my nerves to respond less violently, trying to reclaim some normalcy. Some days, progress was visible. I could stand for longer periods, lift a cup of water without flinching, or move my legs slightly more freely. Other days, a small jolt of pain would knock me back to square one. It was a constant cycle of hope and despair, a roller coaster that left me exhausted in every sense of the word. Through it all, I clung to memories of the life I had before the accident. The energy, the freedom, the independence. I held on to it like a talisman, a reminder that I was still Journey Morrison, even if my body no longer obeyed me. I imagined the Jeep with the top down, the bustling sessions with clients, the laughter and camaraderie of Sunday brunches with legend. These memories became a lifeline, a reminder that I could endure this, even when the present threatened to crush me entirely. And then came the first signs that survival wasn't just physical, it was emotional, social, and relational. Family dynamics shifted. Small tensions became larger conflicts. Glances carried judgment. Words were loaded with meaning. And I realized that the fight wasn't just against CRPS, it was against the world that didn't understand the battle I was waging, against the subtle betrayals that came from those who claimed to love me. It was during this period that I discovered something crucial. Survival isn't just enduring the pain. Survival is enduring people, enduring life, enduring betrayal, and still finding the strength to rise every single day. I was no longer just training others. I was training myself to survive, to endure, to thrive in a body and life that had been shattered. By the end of those 2 years, I had learned something powerful. Pain is relentless, but so am I. People may falter, family may falter, but as long as I draw breath, as long as I refuse to let my story be defined by suffering alone, I am unbreakable. And yet, even as I survived, even as I rebuilt some semblance of life and strength, a storm was brewing, one that would test every ounce of my resilience, one that would bring betrayal into the open, in front of the very people who were supposed to love me unconditionally, one that would change everything. Memorial Day in Henderson, Nevada, should have been a celebration. Instead, it became the day my world, already fractured by CRPS, pain, and betrayal, was tested in front of 40 relatives, all of whom had witnessed the vibrant, unstoppable Journey Morrison before the accident. I sat by the pool in my wheelchair, my body buzzing with nerve fire that made even the summer breeze feel like a knife against my skin. CRPS had become my shadow, an unrelenting reminder that nothing in life came without struggle. But what I didn't expect, not even in my worst nightmares, was Legend Morrison, my brother, the person I trusted most, walking up to me with a vodka-laden smirk and a vendetta years in the making. Without warning, he splashed an iced drink all over me. Vodka, ice, soda, the cold liquid drenching my hair, neck, and chest. Pain erupted like a forest fire in my nerves. Every inch of my body screamed. My vision blurred, my muscles clenched, but my mind cleared. This was no longer about the accident or CRPS. It was about truth. "How long are you going to live a lie?" he shouted. The words carried across the yard. Laughter erupted behind him, cousins clapping, someone shouting, "Yeah, stand up already!" Every phone pointed at me, recording, broadcasting, immortalizing his humiliation attempt. The first instinct is always shock. The first impulse is to recoil. But I didn't. I had survived too much for shock to paralyze me. I had endured pain that made even the most basic human motions feel like torture. I had spent years learning that survival is not about hiding your fire, it's about standing in it. I stared into the nearest recording phone. My arms trembled, my chest burned, my legs were consumed by nerve fire that could have made most people scream, writhe, or collapse. But I didn't flinch. I didn't shrink. I didn't beg. I said only one thing. The truth, raw and unshakable. You have no idea how long I've survived this. The yard fell silent for a heartbeat. Even Legend faltered. He had expected me to break, to apologize, to shrink under the weight of public humiliation. He had miscalculated, because surviving CRPS, surviving betrayal, surviving an accident that shattered my body, I had already faced hell, and I was still here. Pain lanced through me in waves, relentless, unyielding. Ice water ran down my chest, mixing with the sweat and tears that I refused to acknowledge. CRPS screamed at me, demanding surrender. But the fire in my spirit burned brighter. Every nerve fire, every spasm, every jolt was a reminder that I had earned the right to speak my truth. Legend staggered back slightly, the smirk replaced by confusion, almost fear. He didn't know how to respond to someone who had already survived so much more than he ever would. Around us, cousins shifted uncomfortably, their phones still recording, their laughter now subdued. Some exchanged glances. A few whispered apologies. But nothing mattered. I wasn't looking for validation. I wasn't looking for pity. I was declaring my survival. The memory of my life before the accident flashed in my mind. My high-rise condo, my Jeep Wrangler with the top always down, the clients who trusted me to push them beyond limits, the brunches with Legend when we were inseparable. That life shaped me, yes, but survival had reshaped me. Pain had tested me, betrayal had tested me, and I had emerged stronger, more defiant, more unbreakable. I could feel the nerves screaming in my legs, my arms, my torso. CRPS is a tyrant, unrelenting, invisible, and misunderstood. But I had spent years mastering a truth most people never understand. Pain does not define me. It merely reminds me that I am alive. In that moment, with the sun blazing overhead and the pool reflecting the chaos of family, I realized something even deeper. Survival isn't just about enduring physical pain. It's about enduring emotional pain. It's about enduring betrayal. It's about facing humiliation head-on and still refusing to let anyone take your dignity. I sat taller in my wheelchair, lifted my chin, and let the world see me, not broken, not defeated, not weak, but unshakable. I had survived an accident that could have ended me. I had endured years of excruciating CRPS. I had faced isolation, lost clients, strained relationships, and whispers of judgment. And yet here I was, staring down my brother, declaring my truth for all to witness. Some relatives began to murmur, unsure of how to respond. Legend shifted uncomfortably. His attempt to humiliate me had failed spectacularly. Because I wasn't the same sister he once knew, or perhaps I was the same, but stronger, sharper, and unafraid to confront the darkness he tried to throw at me. This wasn't the end of the story. Not yet. Survival is ongoing, a daily battle with nerves, pain, and sometimes people. But in that moment, I claimed victory, not over Legend, not over the family, not over the world, but over every moment I could have let fear, humiliation, or pain dominate me. I survived, and I had the courage to declare it. If you're reading this, if you've ever survived something that seemed impossible, drop a 1 in the comments. Because survival isn't silent. It's witnessed. It's declared. It's felt in the marrow of your bones and the fire in your nerves. I survived the accident. I survived CRPS. I survived the betrayal of the people I loved most. And I will continue to survive every single day. Because surviving isn't just about living. It's about rising, defiant, unbroken, and unashamed in the face of everything that tries to tear you down. The pool shimmered behind me. The vodka water had dried on my skin. The fire in my nerves still burned, but so did the fire in my spirit. And in that heat, in that pain, I understood something profound. Nothing and no one can ever take away my story, my strength, my survival, because I am Journey Morrison. I endure, I fight, I survive.